Okay, welcome to the left-right empathy circle. And this is on the topic of how might we bridge the political divides in the country and in North America. And it's hosted by the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy and the Empathy Tent, and is part of the National Week of Conversation. And this is also the beginning of a series of empathy circles with the political left and right that we're going to be doing over the next months and perhaps years, for that matter. And we invite viewers to contact us to take part in future empathy circles. The intention for this circle is to build a culture of empathy and for each participant to be seen and understood to their satisfaction, and also to foster mutual listening, understanding, and for us to see our common humanity. And we're also trying to promote the empathy circle process as a way to hold more effective and constructive conversations. And so we're going to start with short introductions of the participants, and then we're going to review the empathy circle, and then we'll just jump right into it and begin. So if we could go around and introduce ourselves, just like with 30 seconds or less, your name, where you're from, and your political leanings, and I'll model it. I'm Edwin Rutch, and I'm from El Cerrito, California, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area and just north of Berkeley. And political leanings, I grew up conservative, evangelical Christian conservative in Sacramento area, did many years of travel, and moved to the more, I would say, the left progressive side, and have since moved to, I would say, the empathic side. So kind of see myself as promoting a culture of empathy. And I'll be the facilitator, and Jessica is going to co-facilitate. So would you like to introduce yourself, Jessica, to begin with?
Sure, thank you. I'm originally from France, and I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada right now. I usually vote for the Green Party. So I'd say I'm leaning more to the left side, and I'm happy to support Edwin in his mission to spread a culture of empathy. I do believe as well that to be able to talk through our differences and find a common ground where everybody can feel seen and heard without necessarily feeling they have to compromise their voice. So that's why I'm here, and I'm excited to be supportive.
Okay, and you'll also be timekeeper later on. So
I will.
Thanks for that. And Jay, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Jay Austin Graham. I just go by Jay, and I'm from Texas originally. So I grew up in a very conservative Christian background. However, I got turned off to a lot of closed-minded people that I met through that. So I moved out to California. Now I live in San Francisco, and I moved left, and then I started meeting people where I was like, wow, that's really far left. So I consider myself kind of a centrist, but these days in this political climate, I do tend to fit more on the right libertarian side. I would definitely consider myself anti-authoritarian, so more libertarian. But I think it's really important that we discuss things civilly, and we need to empathize with people who disagree with us. I think this is incredibly important, and I'm really glad to be a part of this project.
Glad you're a part of it as well. Cliff, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'm originally from Vermont. Right now I live down in Texas. Years ago, I ran a neighborhood group, and we were opposing an asphalt plant, and I had people from a business community and the neighborhood community and shared that. So that was kind of my startup experience with this bipartisanness. Recently, one of our neighbors put out a call on Nextdoor to have civil conversations, and I attended that, and then I don't know, just my natural taking notes and gathering everything. Next thing I know, I'm in charge of the email, and I'm coordinating everything for that group. We have a weekly meeting, and it's going quite well so far. We've had 5 meetings, but some of the people want to go online, so I'm going to get some experience with y'all.
Oh, great. Cliff? I mean, David?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, my name is David. I currently live in San Francisco. I'm originally from Alabama, and my political leanings, well, let's see here. I grew up pretty much non-political personally, and most of my life I've been non-political. I don't like dealing with people that much. You know, I find them problematic at best. And after witnessing a lot of the political violence out here, I've and recent changes to my lifestyle. I used to, you know, be a drug addict and stuff. I'm now clean and stuff. And after growing up in the most conservative part of the country and spending most of my adult life in probably the most liberal part of the country, I've seen extremes on both sides. And I think at best that people have a right to disagree with each other. And because reality is complicated and there's lots of ways of looking at stuff. And right now I'm on the side of free speech, you know, free speech pretty much. And right now that's pretty much the conservative, so I consider myself conservative.
Okay, thank you. Lisa?
Yeah, my name's Lisa Swallow. I'm in Portland, Oregon, though I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area. I lean left. And I'm currently involved in Crossing Party Lines, which is a national nonprofit that I'm the co-founder of, and we facilitate empathic conversation between folks from diverse political perspectives. And right now, I am trying to connect up with as many groups that do that kind of work to see if we can come together and share our knowledge, what works, what doesn't work, and then eventually combine our voices so that we can reach out to politicians in the world, showing that it can be done and it is the way to have the strongest nation possible by celebrating that diversity of political perspectives.
Okay, thank you. And so I had sent out a link, and this was a PDF. You know, you had all downloaded, so hopefully you had a chance to review it. This is the empathy circle structure, and the empathy circle is a structured dialogue process, and it really supports mutual understanding and connection. And as much as possible, I think it ensures that each person feels heard to their satisfaction. And so I'm just going to review this again, just to set up the kind of the structure that we're going to be using, and then we'll just jump right in. So in this dialogue process, there's a speaker, and then the listener, and the rest are silent listeners until it becomes their turn to speak or be active listeners. And so in this process, one person will speak. For example, if Jessica speaks, she would speak to me, and we'll have 3-minute turns for the person to speak. And she would speak to me, and then I would periodically reflect back my understanding of what she has said. So this is like active listening process. And then once she feels heard or the time is up, then it would be my turn to speak, and I would select someone to speak to, and then they would reflect back their understanding of what I said to my satisfaction, and then until I feel like I've been fully heard or the time is up again, and then it just keeps going around like that for the time allotted, and we've allotted an hour and a half for this circle. So there's a couple of tips. So under speaker tips, as the speaker, you want to pause often to give the listener a chance to reflect what you've said. So, you know, say a few sentences, say a little bit, say a concept, and then give some space for the listener to be able to reflect back their understanding of what you said. And then once if you haven't used your full time and you feel like you have nothing else to say, you can say something like, I feel fully heard, just to indicate that you're done speaking and that it's the listener's turn to speak. And as the active listener, or we also call it the reflector, when you're reflecting, you're just reflecting in your own words, sort of the essence, kind of the gist of what the person has said. and you're not asking questions, you're not putting in your own, ideas. You're only trying to convey your understanding of what the speaker has said. You just really want them to feel like they've been understood. And if the person is going on for a long time, you think, oh, I'm never going to remember all this, what they're saying. You say, oh, would you please pause and let me just reflect back what I'm saying. So just if you start feeling a little overwhelmed with trying to remember everything that they might be saying. So as silent listeners, so there's a speaker and then the active listener. The rest of us are just silent listeners. We're just observing and listening, and eventually the turn will come around to you. And we're going to start off with 3-minute turns, which we can extend to 5 minutes later. We'll see how it goes. And Jessica is going to be the timekeeper. So when 3 minutes is up, she is going to hold up 3 minutes. And there we go. So it's a simple process, and I will sometimes maybe help facilitate just to keep people on track with the process if it's needed at all. Often it's not. So with that basic introduction, I think just jumping right in and doing it is the best way to kind of learn and do it. And so we have our question: how might we bridge the growing political divides in the country? And if someone were to start, and you can speak with each other. We have Lisa, Cliff, David, and Justin, Jay. And if you speak with each other, that's fine. If you want to speak to Jessica or I, that is fine too. But we're here to help facilitate. So everyone can be a participant, but we're kind of setting it up for the four of you to dialogue and to support the dialogue. And just to sort of model it, if someone wants to start and speak to me, I will do the reflection just to model how the reflection works. So who would like to start? And the question is, how might we bridge whatever comes up for you about the political divides?
I'll start.
Okay.
So when I worry that the political divide is getting worse, and I think that something we really need to work on is communicating with each other. And that's why I think that this empathy circle is such a brilliant idea, because you're showing people how to listen and understand without worrying about what they're going to say next. And it's more about understanding the perspective that they're hearing.
Okay, well, let me reflect back what I'm hearing so far is that you see the growing problem in the country of people not dialoguing, and you see that we do need conversation and dialogue, and you even use the word brilliant in terms of the structured dialogue in supporting dialogue.
Yes, and I think a major problem is our current use of technology. Because when I have face-to-face conversations with people, I find them way more receptive to new information and ideas. But when I talk to people via text on Facebook or Twitter, they just want to hold the line and make their point. And I think conversing with people one-on-one is a great way to bridge this divide.
Okay, so you see that, as I understand that on Facebook and Twitter, on these text-based platforms, that there's a lot more conflict there. And when you're finding from your own experience, when you just connect with someone one-to-one, that you can really connect with people.
Yes, and and you find out that people agree about things that you normally kind of assume, that person's on the right or that person's on the left. And you can find out that you actually do have a lot of common ground when you discuss things together in groups or one-on-one.
So really that in personal and one-on-one discussions, you can really see the common ground that you have, and it's just a better way of connecting with people.
Yes. And I think, yeah, I think I've been heard on that.
Okay, feel very much then. Thank you. Then I'll speak with Cliff. Yeah, I'm excited about starting these empathy circles. We've done a lot of different ones and not so many with the political left and right. So I'm quite thrilled that this is the beginning of a whole series. So I'm sort of just celebrating, feeling excited, and feeling a sense of gratitude for everyone taking part.
Gratitude's good.
Done a good job.
So do you want to just reflect back what you heard me say?
Yeah, you're excited about moving the empathy circle into the political arena and continuing what you've done so far. I'm curious about what your empathy circles discuss before politics.
Okay, so yeah, so in terms of the process, it takes a little bit to get used to the process. So you'll have a chance to speak and ask questions, and all you're doing to begin with is just reflecting back what I heard. So you got it. The only part that you didn't reflect back was that I have gratitude for everyone taking part. If you just want to reflect that back.
And I appreciate you doing the setup work on all this too. You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm hearing you feel gratitude as well, but can you just reflect back, just say what you heard me say. So I was just saying I feel gratitude for everyone taking part. So if you just let me hear that you heard that, then.
Yes, you have gratitude for everybody that's here listening, and I appreciate everybody here as well.
Okay, thank you. And this is a new kind of a process for a lot of people. So I also have gratitude for everyone kind of giving it a try too. So I guess there's that gratitude for taking part in this empathic listening process.
Right. So would this be, I mean, I agree that we are learning the process of better listening.
Right. So if you just state back that I feel gratitude for everyone taking part in the process, if you just say that part, then I'll feel really understood.
I feel gratitude for everybody listening to this process as well.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, so with
that you feel gratitude for us being here, and
that's it. Yeah. Thank you. So with that, I feel fully heard, and you can select who you want to speak to. Thanks.
Well, I don't know. I guess it's David. You're conservative, and you're interested in free speech. I think you said something earlier about free speech, that it was free speech seemed to, in your viewpoint, to be a conservative thing more than.
Well, at least nowadays. Oh, sorry.
Okay. It's interesting. I'm curious about that.
Okay.
Appropriate for me to.
Yeah, for the process, you can say whatever you want, and David is just going to reflect back what he heard you say. So it would be like, oh, I understand you have some curiosity about it. Yeah.
Okay, so you want me to interpret what he just said, and then.
Not interpret, but just reflect back. Just tell him, what did you hear him say?
I heard him say that he heard me say that I was conservative, and that he also heard that I feel that conservatives are on the side of free speech, and I kind of reiterate, well, at least nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Is that it, Cliff? Is that?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'd like to talk about it more in the future.
Is there more you'd like to say?
I'm more interested in learning and watching the process for right now.
Okay, can I respond?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and then you can select who you'd like to speak to, David. Yeah.
Okay, my response to that.
And who are you speaking to? So you select who you speak to.
I'm responding to Cliff Anderson.
Okay, you're going to speak back to him. Great.
Well, I mean, okay, not to kind of keep this focused or whatever, but very simply, if you go to liberals don't have to wear body armor to have a rally. We're not the ones getting attacked. I mean, you guys are not the ones getting attacked.
Okay.
That's pretty much that's anti-free speech as far as I'm concerned, you know.
I see.
So do you want to just reflect back? Just what did you hear David say? That?
Yeah, I hear you saying that conservatives, when they are marching or whatever, they have to wear armor these days. I wasn't aware of that, but wow, that's shocking.
Is that it, David, or is there more?
I think that gets to the center of my
Okay.
point, my response to that. I mean, I could elaborate, but I think you can read between the lines. I mean, that speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel heard and understood?
Do you believe that's true? I mean, I guess my response to that is, how could you not know that?
I guess we're.
So can I just?
Yeah.
This is a little structured process, so it takes a little bit of introduction. So the response would be to David is, how would you not you're wondering how we don't know that this is the situation. Right?
Yeah,
Is that it? It's like David, you're kind of wondering how it is that liberals don't know that this is the situation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you just want to reflect that part back, Cliff, then it's a little different structured process here, so it takes a little bit of getting used to. You're just trying to hear, let David know what you heard him say. So.
Yeah, so from your viewpoint, liberals are you're surprised that I am not aware. I mean, I may have read and seen an incident or two, but I did not realize that attacks on conservatives were prevalent, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm going to research it too. And
do you feel hurt?
That's definitely wrong. What you're saying, it's
okay. I feel like I'm hurt.
Appearance of that is wrong.
You feel hurt? Okay. Cliff, now it's your turn. You can select someone to speak to.
I think it's David's turn.
He just said he was heard.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was also I was taking notes on what everybody's leaning is, and I didn't mention on my own that I am left, and I did not hear. Apparently, this is where I do need to pick up, but I was writing things down. Lisa was somebody I didn't get. Oh, okay. No, I think.
Okay, so are you selecting Lisa? So the first step is to just select who you're speaking to. Are you speaking to Lisa? Is that what who you're selecting? Or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa, I think I heard you say that you're on the left. I'm just kind of keeping track of where everybody's from. Not that it should I don't think it should make a difference, but.
Okay, so what I hear is that you're keeping track of how everyone is leaning and politically, and you heard me say that I was from the left, and it sounds like you would like a little clarification just to validate that you heard correctly?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, I am from the left.
Okay.
Is there more you want to say, Cliff? Or
No, that's all the questions I have right now.
Okay, so you feel fully heard, just to indicate that now it's Lisa's turn.
Yes.
So, okay, Lisa, you're select who you'd like to speak to.
Jay, you haven't had a chance to speak or listen, so I'd love to speak to you, which I believe means you get to listen to me.
Cool.
Okay, and since we're just starting, I'm not all the way sure how to dive into it, but let's go back to the bridging divide. And I truly believe that the key is in us learning how to talk to one another and really hear what the other person has to say.
So what I'm hearing is that you believe what's really important is being able to listen and really understand what the other person is saying.
Yeah, that's it. I also feel that there's some skill involved in sharing our perspective. So in talking about politics, I think there are ways to speak that make it easier for us to be listened to by someone from a different perspective.
So you're saying that when it comes to politics, it's really important to speak properly and understand what you're saying. That way you can share ideas with people who may disagree with you.
Right. And just to clarify, the word properly doesn't have a whole lot of meaning, I don't think. It can be misinterpreted. So I really focus on some teachable skills and a process that people can learn so that they understand what is more likely to be understood and not put people off.
So you want to focus on teachable skills so that people don't turn others off by presenting their ideas in a way that, turns people off, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. I feel heard.
Cool. So does that make it my turn now?
Yep, and you select who to speak to. Yep.
I would, let's see. I would also, I would like to speak to Lisa, actually. So let me see. I am actually interested in learning, not only learning the skills that you're talking about and making sure I have a good foundation in them, but also spreading those skills and teaching other people how to communicate effectively and helpfully. I think those are really great things, and I need to check out your information.
Okay, so what I heard is that you're interested in this learning how to speak to others, and not just learning the skills, but also having the opportunity to spread them and teach them to others. And the goal is to be both effective and helpful in the communications. And you're thinking you might check out the website for my group.
Yes. And I do a podcast for the same reasons, because I want to foster conversations. And again, I feel like it's really important that people both, I guess, communicate effectively and listen effectively. And a lot of times people only listen until they know what they're going to say next, and then they concentrate on what they're going to say next so that they don't forget it, at which point they're not really listening as well as they were before.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that you do a podcast, and the goal here is to foster conversations, and you really hope that there's communication both in the speaking effectively, but also the listening effectively. And that in your experience, you run into a lot of people who only listen until they figure out what they want to say. And once they do that, they're turned off because they're so busy framing how they're going to say that, and aren't really listening. And that's a big concern for you.
Yes, yes, and I feel heard.
All
Now
right,
it's your turn, Lisa.
my turn. I want to talk to David. David, I felt some concern when I heard you talk about the need for conservatives to wear body armor when they protest, and also surprised that that Cliff in particular, because he's who you were speaking to, didn't know that already.
Okay. You just said that you were interested in me talking about conservatives having to take protective measures when they go to rallies, and I believe you said did you say you were surprised that Cliff hadn't heard about this?
No, actually, I said that I noticed you were surprised.
Yeah, I was surprised. Yes, I feel heard. I mean, I hear you.
Yeah, this is tough stuff, isn't it? Yeah, I also don't have that perspective that conservatives have to do more to protect themselves from people when they're protesting, though I have seen that there have been instances where liberals have gotten way out of hand when conservatives have protested, particularly in the Bay Area. And I've also noticed that there have been a lot of peaceful conservative rallies.
Okay. You just told me that you've noticed there have been instances of violence, especially in the Bay Area. We've also seen lots of public civil dialogue as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't say civil dialogue, but rather
Nonviolent dialogue.
not dialogue, more the protests or rallies.
Yeah, nonviolent, but peaceful protests.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that I don't approve of anyone interfering with another person's free speech, and I was very saddened and disheartened by the events at Berkeley and some of the other Bay Area. I think there might have been other Bay Area protests that folks went out of hand, and so just wanted to share my sadness and disapproval of that.
Okay, I just heard that you are saddened by the violence coming from. Are you saying your side? Are you admitting that it's coming from your side?
I think it's not an admit or whatever. I don't like it on either side. I've seen it on both sides, but in particular, I am really disappointed that folks who consider themselves liberals would behave that way.
Okay, you're disappointed in political violence in general.
And particularly liberals.
And in particularly liberals. You do not associate or connect with that. You don't think that's something you stand for. Okay. Do you feel hurt?
I do. Thank you.
Okay. So it's my turn?
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you a quick question first? Did you say you were in Portland? You've seen a lot of violence if you've been paying attention in Portland, right? Because you seem to specifically mention the Bay Area, but it's very heavy in Portland in general because Patriot Prayer has been coming there, and like the whole city comes up in arms against them.
Ed,
what are your views on that?
Ed, do you want?
Yeah, if you just reflect back your understanding of what his question was, and then once he feels heard, you can turn around and speak back to him. So we're staying within the reflective listening framework.
So you're really curious about how I can say that, given that I'm from Portland, and we've had a serious amount of violence there, particularly when Patriot Prayer has been present. Do you feel heard?
Yeah, because you mentioned Bay Area, and I was just wondering your feelings about Portland, because from my perspective, it seems like your entire city comes up and on, you know,
Right.
if it's not the mass violent foot soldiers, it's the people that enable them. It seems like the whole city's built around that almost, from my perspective.
Yeah. So from your perspective, Portland in particular is very violent, and to single out the Bay Area and not acknowledge what's going on in Portland feels like it's not just necessarily the folks on the ground, but the people who enable it.
Mm-hmm. I feel heard.
Okay. And so now I'll respond back to you. So I think there's three elements to that. One element is what I see reported on the news generally does not reflect what I see in real life.
Okay, you just said that what you see on what news coverage you witness is not what you witness in real life, in your own eyes.
Right. So when I've seen the news coverage, they show all this violence, and it looks like it's going on forever. And in reality, you can be right where the rally's going on an hour before and an hour after, and there's no sign of violence, and it's not it's not quite what's reflected on the news.
Well, you're probably more safer if you're on your liberal side.
Do you want to just reflect back what you heard her say?
Yeah. You just said, I think you just reiterated what you've witnessed firsthand. It's not what's reflected in the news, because it seems like you're saying that the news focus on the sensational outbursts that are happening, which is true.
And so that was part one. Part two is in Portland, there is a large population of the Antifa group, and no liberal that I associate with, and I associate with a lot, I have 1,000 members in my group, we don't consider those liberals. We consider those violent outliers that we do not support in any way.
Okay. What I'm hearing is for you and your constituents, I guess, do not relate with Antifa, and you do not think they represent your liberal values, and you do not stand behind them.
Correct. And the city of Portland is working really hard to figure out what to do in a situation where we have these folks living in our midst. Just like I'm sure there's some towns that have neo-Nazis living in their midst and are trying to figure out how do we balance freedom of speech and freedom to protest in a way that doesn't condone it. And it's a real problem that I think many cities are experiencing.
Okay, what I'm hearing from you, let's see here, is that your city is working hard in figuring out how to deal with this Antifa thing. And you mentioned something about neo-Nazis in other places, but I'm not sure how you reference that with Antifa and where you live. So I guess did you just say that people are learning how to my side's trying to deal with the neo-Nazis in our midst?
I was trying to suggest that, like, Charlottesville wants to, maybe they don't have it in their midst, but they're trying to deal with this too.
Yeah. Well, okay, can I respond to that?
Just reflect back what you heard, and then when she says she's heard, then it's...
What you just told me is that Charlottesville has had problems with neo-Nazis, and they're trying to deal with that.
That was the answer to your question, but what I'm really trying to say is cities around the country are trying to figure out how to support free speech and protect the right to protest while somehow controlling the violent people that might be on both sides. It doesn't matter what side a person's on. Anyone who is disrupting this needs to be dealt with, and we don't really know how.
Okay, so sum up what I'm hearing is that you think it's a complicated problem, and everyone's trying to figure out how to protect freedom of speech and subdue political violence.
Okay, that's a fair reasonable summation.
Okay, mind if I respond to that?
You feel heard, Lisa? So
Basically, yeah.
basically, so okay, enough. So yeah, okay, David.
Well, okay, I'll respond to Lisa. I think I have some suggestions for some of these things that you were wondering. I think the first and foremost in my mind is to have mask laws, because to reference something Jay said earlier, that people seem to be a lot more rude and closed-minded when they're online because of anonymity, and that whenever you go out in public in a mask, you're basically like, you're anonymous as well. So the worst part of human, that you can be able to like do despicable things and not suffer consequences, kind of like what happens with online. And I think the first thing you have to do is remove people's anonymity, accountability. I'm a big fan of accountability. We live in we strive to be a free country, but freedom isn't free, and you're free to do whatever, but I believe that you have to be accountable for what you do as well. And violence is no good. Violence should only time you should respond to violence is when violence has been done to you. Words are not violent.
Yeah, so what I heard you say is you have some suggestions, and the first one has to do with getting rid of the masks, because masks is a way to create anonymity, and that's a lot like those online conversations that don't work. And anonymity is problematic because people are not held accountable for their behaviors, and they're likely to do the more despicable things. And you're really, really adamant that violence is no good, and there's no excuse for violence unless someone has done violence to you.
Self-defense.
Pardon?
That's basically self-defense, but yeah, I do.
In self-defense, yeah.
Yeah, I feel heard.
Okay. So, David, to report back to you, I agree with you 100%. I don't like the masks. I don't approve of the violence. I feel that the only justification for violence is also self-defense. And I don't know why the city hasn't tried that. The reason that I do crossing party lines is to get all these people from both sides who see the same things and feel the same way. As we get together in numbers, we have a voice and we can put pressure on the government. Or if it's not a matter of needing pressure, maybe we can have a dialogue with the city representatives and find out why they're not doing this, why they're not getting rid of masks, and some of the other suggestions you or I might come up with.
Okay, I feel like you just told me that you agree with me on the mask policy, and that you would like to get like-minded people that are against such things together to talk to city officials, because they are obviously not doing much about the masks.
Yeah, I want to say that I don't think that I agree with you. I do agree with you.
Okay, all right.
And I think politicians need to be held accountable too. So if we send a message and they still don't respond, I want to bring them in front of us and ask them, what's going on here?
Yeah, I think that's a good start. I think that's a good start. I feel like I just heard, you didn't really say anything new then, so you were just reiterating what you just told me, right? Can I respond to that?
Or just reflect back till she feels heard.
Well, you just told me that, again, that you would like to get people together and talk to city officials to deal with some of these problems, like the masks.
Yeah, the one part I'd love to hear back from you is about the accountability. That I agree with you on accountability for people's actions, and I especially want to start holding politicians accountable.
Okay, I hear back from you that you would like, you believe in accountability, and you especially would like to seek accountability in politicians.
Yeah, thank you. I feel heard.
I'm not sure whose turn it is.
Your turn. You're up, David, and you select who you'd like to speak to.
All right. I would like to get back with you later, Lisa, but I still want to speak back and forth between me and you guys.
Sure.
Let's see here. I guess we'll go to Cliff over here. What's up, Cliff?
Hey.
Sounds like you, what do I want to ask you? I mean, what are your feelings on the limits and benefits of freedom of speech and freedom of expression?
Okay, yeah. I believe the way
So, just a second, Cliff.
Yes, okay,
Before you answer, all you do is reflect the question. Only tell him what you heard the question was.
Right. Okay. I'm learning, sorry.
Yeah, it takes a little bit. That's what we're here for. This is, yeah. So what did you hear David just ask?
If I understand you correctly, David, you are asking me what my beliefs are in regarding free speech. Are you interested in when it's allowed and when it's not allowed, or?
Just your general overview. Just, it's a kind of a broad question. I'm just kind of filling you out right now.
Sure.
So do you feel heard, David?
Yeah, I feel heard.
Okay, Cliff, it's your turn to select whoever you'd like to speak to.
I believe in.
Who are you speaking to? First, select who you.
I'm replying to David.
Okay, speaking back to him.
I feel very strongly about freedom of speech, and the only time I don't think it should ever be speech should be disallowed, but the wise person would not use a lot of negativity and attacks in their free speech, because that is just not going to win your cause.
Okay. What I hear from Cliff is that he believes strongly in freedom of speech and expression, but that a person, that doesn't mean a person should say whatever they want, because there are repercussions in what kind of message you put out there.
Yes, that's basically what I was saying. Thank you.
Is there more? Is there more, Cliff?
Yeah, and I agree with your point earlier about anonymity and online forums. People have a tendency to let loose of a wild animal sometimes when they're online, and say things that they absolutely wouldn't if they were your friend and they were in your company. It tend to be a lot more friendly then.
Okay, what I'm hearing from, I guess you were talking to me, right?
Yes.
Okay, what I heard from Cliff is that he also recognizes how anonymity can cause a person to show the worst side of themselves, or a bad side of themselves.
Yes.
That they wouldn't do in person, face to face.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Thank you.
Okay. And just one comment, if you're typing, it's good to mute yourself just because we hear the clicking of the typing. So, okay, David, it's your turn.
I guess I'll go back to Lisa. I believe you mentioned earlier that you're trying to teach people how to effectively communicate with each other, that you believe in like empathetic conversation. Sometimes I hear that a lot from liberals, and sometimes that sounds like dog whistle. Like it can be abused. Like basically, don't use wrong speech, or we won't listen to you. Or even worse, with extreme situations, don't use wrong speech, or we will attack you and hurt you. So that's just. I feel like I have a right to be rude if I want to be, as long as I'm not violent.
So you're expressing some interest in what I said about my efforts to teach people to communicate and communicate empathically. You've had some experience where, well, you have some kinds of sort of sounds like with liberals, that sounds like you use the phrase dog whistle. And I'm not sure what that phrase means, but I did understand what you said afterwards, is that your experience is that liberals often say, talk to me, but you have to use the right language, and don't use the wrong speech, and you want to make it clear that you have a right to be rude.
I feel heard.
Okay. I guess I'll respond back to you. I don't think there's anything in the process of empathic listening that has anything to do with right speech versus wrong speech. It's really about listening to what someone has to say, and if they are angry or rude or whatever, we just reflect that back. When I run groups, which is up between 12 and 20 people of lots of different political perspectives, we do have some basic ideas about how to share things, and one is to use I statements. So I feel pretty rude. I'm riled up because this thing's going on, and it really bothers me. We do have rules about not attacking folks in the group, because these are strangers. They didn't do whatever it is that you might be riled up about. In the setting when we allow people to disagree. So yeah, we don't do, the whole concept of political correctness is not anything that is related to what we do, though we have talked about it as a topic of interest multiple times.
Okay. What I heard back from Lisa is that you've had groups and you have suggestions like using I statements as an effective way of being able to maybe express negative stuff, but only containing it to that person, I'm assuming. And you also have no violence policies as well when you have whatever gatherings you were talking about, and that you feel. So you mentioned political correctness. You feel that political correctness has nothing to do with your empathetic dialogue style, but it is something that political correctness is a topic that you've brought up in your debates as well.
Yeah, I feel heard.
So it's my turn again?
Yep.
All right. Let's see here.
I'd like to address David if I could.
I think it's my turn, Jay, but I'd like to. You know what? I'll ask you a question. You can ask.
Thanks.
All right. Well, all right, Jay. Like, what do you think about this? Do you think this could work? People talking to each other. How effective do you think this is going to be?
Okay, so what I heard was you want to know if this dialogue technique can be effective.
Yeah, I feel heard.
Okay. And yeah, I do think.
And select the person who you're speaking to.
I would like to speak to David, please.
Okay.
Okay. So yes, not only do I feel like this style of dialogue is effective, I feel it's very important. And because listening is just as important, if not more important, than speaking.
Okay, I heard from Jay that he does feel it's important, feel that this dialogue style is important because he feels like listening is as, or perhaps more important than just talking.
Right. And I wanted to say, when it comes to, and I'd like to defend anonymity a little bit, because there's some ideas that I think people should be able to express and maybe not feel persecuted for it. For instance, some people may have a job, for instance, a government job. They may be police officers themselves or something, and they may want to go to a protest, at which point they don't want the other officers to recognize them. So I see a place for anonymity, and I think we need to draw a line between people who want to do something anonymously versus people who are acting in a bad way anonymously.
Okay, what I heard from Jay is that he feels like there's legitimate excuses for wanting to be at a public rally and to be anonymous at the same time. You feel hurt?
Yes.
I'd like to respond to that. I think I see what you're saying. You know, in a perfect world, maybe that would be cool. But like, I think the cons outweigh the pros big time when it comes to public gatherings with people in masks, because how can you sort out the violent from non-violent? They're usually, you know, like if someone's in a mask and then they just attack someone and then they just hide, run back into a crowd, a bunch of other people in masks. I mean, it's impossible to stop violence. I come from Alabama, and Antifa tried that stuff in Alabama, and the police shut them down fast because we have anti-masks laws, because we've dealt with mask lynch mobs before. And that was like one of the only ways we could get rid of the KKK is to get rid of their anonymity, because that's a powerful weapon.
Okay. What I heard is there's historical context for getting rid of masks due to people that were hiding their identities because they were doing atrocious things and they were supporting bad ideas, and that kind of gave them a way to hide while still supporting those ideas. And you're definitely, and you're worried about masked people being able to blend into the crowd to get away with their actions.
Yes, that's correct. I feel hurt for the most part.
Okay.
The main point I wanted to press on that is I feel like whatever pros public anonymity has, the cons outweigh it big time. You know, that we kind of have to choose one or another with that.
Okay. Okay, so you're saying that you feel like it's a choice between one or the other, specifically due to the climate we're dealing with now.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable people masks. I think this is human nature. But yeah.
Okay. You feel heard?
I feel hurt.
Okay. I would like to respond to David.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that I think a good solution, and we've already kind of been over this before, is self-policing within the group. So if one person's doing a bad thing, say holding a swastika sign or breaking windows, I think that the group should be self-policing and be like, we're not with this person. One solution would be to unmask that person and be like, look, they're not part of this group. We don't approve of what they're doing. We don't associate with this. And if you make that a standard, then you can hold the group responsible for the actors that they don't kick out.
Okay, what I'm hearing from Jay is that you think that there's some way to balance this by groups policing their own bad apples.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel heard.
I guess my quick response to that is I just don't think that's possible. You can't assume that people are going to do that. You know, some kind of policy has to be put in place.
So you don't think that people are capable of accomplishing that on their own, and that the law needs to be
more times than not,
in?
more times than not, they're not going to police their own. There are instances of it, but you can't count on it.
So you're saying, yeah, you're saying that sometimes they do police themselves, but more often than not, they don't.
No, I feel heard.
And I just want to make a statement to David real quick, that I believe, I agree with that. And I think it's a tough situation. And unfortunately, people have shown that when their team is the one doing the bad things, it doesn't matter so long as they think their team is going to win. And I think that's a major problem with what I call team politics.
Okay, what I heard from Jay is that you agree with what I'm saying, and you believe the reason for that is partisan politics. Okay. So is it my turn?
Do you feel heard, Jay?
Yes.
Okay.
I do feel.
Okay, David.
All right. I'd like to I guess go back over to Lisa. I just wanted to, first of all, I'd just like to express to you that I hate to sound like a broken record to talk about like Antifa and masks and stuff, but if we're talking about empathy, like being able to go out in public and not get punched, you know, you can't move past that. I mean, you have to take care of that first before you can do anything else. You know, I mean, I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I would like to express to you, or maybe I guess I could throw in a question, that it sounds like you're giving lip service. I feel like you're just perhaps giving lip service. That I might be conflating you with just liberals in general, but you say that you're against violence, but you're just like totally, it sounds like you do nothing against Antifa. Absolutely nothing. You just do nothing. You know, I feel like you should do something, because this stuff's going to come back to you. It's going to come back in a boomerang in a hard way. So don't think the war is, you know, not at your front steps, because it's already at us. It's going to come to you eventually if you guys don't stop it. Pass.
Okay, so I think you started by saying you don't want to sound like a broken record, and you also mentioned that you recognize you might be conflating me with all liberals. And you said that, you know, the whole paying lip service to empathy doesn't do much good if a person can't go out in public and not get punched. You'd like me to think about the fact that if I'm not doing something to stop this violence, then we liberals better watch out, because it's going to come back to us.
Yes. It wasn't a threat. I'm just telling you, this is the nature of violence.
And you want to know that wasn't a threat. You're just kind of stating what is.
Yes.
It's the nature of violence.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And I'll love to respond to you, David.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, did you feel heard?
I feel hurt.
Okay. I'll start by saying that the reason I do Crossing Party Lines is I have a very dear cousin who lives in Tennessee, and he's got views very similar to yours, David. And last year for my birthday, I told him what I wanted was for him to come out to Portland and visit me, and he did. And while he was in Portland, he wore his NRA shirt all around town and talked to everybody about his political perspectives. And his experience was that everyone was open and accepting. In fact, people came up to him and said, "Hey, dude, I love your shirt." He went to my groups and everyone embraced him. He went to parties with me and he did not hide his colors. He didn't have a Make America Great Again hat, but he wore it. I'll stop there. I have one other point to make.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you just told me that you have a dear cousin who lives in the South, Tennessee, and he came to visit you in Portland. He has conservative views, and he was able to wear his NRA hat around town and not get harassed.
Sure, that's good enough. And I know you say that we have to do something. Doing nothing doesn't work. As I see it, I have a couple of things I could do. One is I could go out and be in the middle of the protests and push back. But as a 63-year-old grandmother, I don't think I'd do much good. The other thing I could do is spend my entire life fostering communication and trying to get people to talk to one another and make a difference on a political level by getting politicians to hear from us and getting people to have empathy for folks that are in there. For instance, we had someone who'd been at one of the Patriot Pride rallies, and he talked about his experience and got a lot of people understanding his perspective. So I choose to dedicate my life to do that, and I work more than 40 hours a week towards it, and it may not be the right choice, but it's mine.
I respect that. What you just told me, wow, this is kind of enlightening. I kind of spaced out. Maybe I'm not as maybe I'm not as understanding as I thought I was. But you said that you do things, that you are like an older woman, and so like you don't see yourself getting out there in the front lines, I'm assuming, and that you've got your own way that you contribute to the cause by promoting empathetic thought and speaking, conversation, crossing the party lines.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I feel heard.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'd just like to respond to that, and that'll be it for Lisa for now. For me, I would just like to state that, yeah, I realize that you're an older woman, and that I don't think women really have a place in these violent rallies. Especially if you're on the conservative side, because we're the ones that were on the defense. But realize that a lot of stuff that's going on now, I feel the cultural climate, it's like generational, it's cultural, it's racial, in class, there's, different classes. It's like urban versus rural and stuff. And basically what young conservatives are having to deal with today, I use colorful language, so trying to take offense, but I view Antifa as basically these are your demented children, as far as I'm concerned. You created them. So I feel like it's your responsibility to try to tame them, because they're not going to listen to us. That's all. So
what I heard is that you wanted me to think about this problem in terms of how it's societal and cultural and generational, and that you see this Antifa movement to be out of control kids, young folks, and since I'm an older generation person, you see that maybe it's my job to tame my children.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel heard. And
it was David who is.
Oh, excuse me,
David.
Sorry.
I feel heard.
Okay.
So a quick response, David, is I hear what you're saying, and if any of my children were doing anything like that, I would certainly tame them.
What? Yeah. How would you know they're in masks?
Do you want to just reflect what you heard?
She said that those were her children, that she would tame them, and I would say, how would you know they're in masks?
Did you?
I feel hurt.
Yeah. Okay, Lisa.
I'm sitting with this for a moment to think about how I feel when I get reflected back what I've said, combined with the challenge, because that's it's an interesting experience.
Okay, I meant no offense, but
I would just reflect back what you heard.
she wants to take her time to digest what I just said and perhaps reflect on what style in which I'm communicating.
Is that it, or is it not quite there?
Yeah, it's not quite there.
Do you want to try again?
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I don't feel as though I'm being fully heard when the words are parroted back, but with a challenge or something that pushes back on it.
So, it sounds to me you don't know how to feel or respond or think or whatever to me reiterating what you just said, but it seems like I constantly challenge you back, and I guess you just don't like that.
No, it's not that I don't like it. I'm fine with it, but it doesn't feel like I'm heard when you seem more anxious to counter what I've said than to sit with what you've heard.
Okay, it sounds like that I am parroting back basically what you just said, but I'm not truly digesting it, you feel, because it seems like I'm already like a step ahead of you as far as me challenging what you say. And you feel hurt?
Yeah, that I think is what I'm hearing. Yeah.
I guess my response to that is I feel like empathy, like I can understand what you're saying and not be convinced, so maybe my guard is up a bit, and I apologize.
Okay, so you're saying that that maybe your guard is up and you're.
I don't believe everyone that I hear.
Pardon?
Yeah. I don't believe everything people tell me. I don't trust people, so I guess trust is part of empathy as well, right? Just assume trust.
So you said you don't always believe everyone in what you hear, and you're wondering if trust or assumed trust is part of empathy.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there more? Do you feel heard?
I feel heard.
Okay.
Ed, may I speak with you, please?
Okay, sure.
Okay, so it's my experience, and I want to check with you if that's yours as well, that empathy isn't really about believing everything you hear, or liking everything you hear, or yeah, but it is really about trying to connect with the other person, trying to understand what the other person has to say. So I'm curious if you agree with that.
So you're curious about my understanding of empathy, and yours is that it's just about connecting with someone and not about kind of what they're saying, or I don't think I quite got it.
Okay, so I don't think it's really about necessarily agreeing with another person. It's really hearing what they have to say. So I might have a different political perspective, but I can really feel into and hear what they're saying about how they believe.
So the essence of empathy is not that you're agreeing what the person says, but just feeling into what their views are and what they believe. It's not about agreeing.
Right, and it's trusting that they're sharing what they believe, which is not the same as trusting that they don't have a skewed view.
So it's just trusting who they are and what they're saying is real for them. And it doesn't mean you think that they don't have a skewed view, but that they are saying what they really believe and sort of trusting that.
Yeah, and connecting through that vulnerability of them sharing who they are with you.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a sense of connection. The person shares who they are, and there's a quality of vulnerability in sharing who you are, and a quality of connection gets created from that. And that's how you understand empathy.
Yes, I feel heard.
Okay. I'll speak to Jay. So what I think was happening, what I understand happening, is that Lisa shared something of hers, and she got a reflection of, of what she was saying to a degree, but then there was something added to it. It wasn't just a pure reflection. And you can feel when the person doesn't reflect just what it is that you're trying to express, that they kind of add their own kind of stuff into it. And I think that's what she's trying to deal with.
Right. So you're saying that the point here is to reflect back with empathy, and that when an idea is reflected back and something is added to it that the other person did not say, that that affects the empathetic connection. And what I'm going to add to what you said, but because she said that she felt challenged, and you're saying that it's the same thing, where if you don't reflect it back accurately, accurately, that something was missed. The connection is missed.
Yeah, we're trying to reflect back just as accurately as possible the essence that the person is trying to share. We don't want to add other stuff, and we just want to have that real clear reflection that they feel like they've really been heard, like that they've been really seen for who they are, without adding. And it's a challenge, it's like it's not easy. And that's why that's to be expected. There's going to be struggles, and it's not easy, and that's what we're trying to practice and learn here.
So you're saying that we really want to focus on reflecting specifically what the person has said, and so we communicate that we have understood what has been said, and that it's a difficult process.
Yeah. And there's a real feeling. You can feel if you've really gotten it, and you can feel if you've been understood. So there's a real feeling quality to it, and we can try to get better at that quality.
And you're saying that you can feel it when it's done properly, and that we need to work to make that happen.
Yeah, and that when it's your turn, you can say anything you want. It's like, I don't even care if you use I statements. I don't care if you're abusive. I don't care what. It's like, say anything you want, but be willing, and then the person will reflect it back. So you can be fully express yourself when it is your turn. So that's, add anything you want when it's your turn.
So you can say anything you want at all when it's your turn. The other person their main responsibility is just to listen and repeat it back and reflect it back.
Yeah.
And you don't have to censor yourself. You can use any statement you want.
Yeah, I feel heard. Thanks.
Cool. I'd like to talk to Cliff. I haven't talked to Cliff very much. I have a question for Cliff. How did you end up becoming a liberal living in Texas? I think that's very interesting to me.
My family was concerned.
So before you answer, just reflect the question.
You're interested in how I became a liberal living in Texas, if I heard you correct?
That's correct. I feel heard.
Okay. Yes,
and select who you want to speak to.
I'm just going to reply to Jay to answer his question. I used to be pretty much middle of the road. I voted all the time, but I did not vote party lines. And then a person one time told me that I was a Democrat and I should look into it. And once I did and started looking at the different beliefs of the parties, I kind of aligned with the left. So that's pretty much how it happened.
Okay. So what I heard was you didn't really fall into party lines. You always looked at the issues, and then somebody told you, hey, you know, you kind of fit in this in the Democrat Party, and so you started checking it out, and you felt that you did align with it.
Yes.
Is there more, or do you feel heard?
I feel heard.
Okay.
Okay.
I could probably add to it. Sometimes I wish that.
Well, let me ask you then. What specific issue was it that really kind of helped cement that the idea of being a Democrat for you? Like, what was it? Was there one issue, or what was it?
Again, do I just reflect back what you heard before answering?
Yeah, you're interested if there was a specific interest at when I did become more Democrat.
Yes.
I think, I don't know if there really was a specific issue at the time. You know, when I was involved, I was a neighborhood leader, and I was involved with a lot of business leaders, and I'm very pro-business. But I don't know. I think that I look at the Democrat Party as a party that helps the little guy, and that's where I became more Democrat, is my viewpoint of what a Democrat stood for.
Okay, so what you're telling me is you were involved in a lot of in helping out businesses, and you're concerned with helping the little guy, and you feel like the Democratic Party is the champion of the little guy.
Yes, I'd say that's fairly accurate.
Okay.
Feel heard?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay. I guess I would like to speak to Lisa.
Okay, and you know, we're coming to, yeah, that's good. We're coming to the end, soon to the end. So I just want to give a little warning that after maybe another round, another couple speakers, then we'll be coming to an end.
Okay. So I just wanted to say that because she kind of touched on this before about when you live in an area, you have an experience that you don't see reflected accurately in the media. And I think the whole country, we're all dealing with this right now, is the media wants to, on the internet, they want to get their clicks, and on TV, they want to get their views. And they make a big deal, like whatever gets the most views, that's what they play. So you'll see a video from a protest over and over, and she said it's just like 5 minutes, 5 minutes of video that you see replayed over and over, and it's not an accurate representation of the area.
So you're saying that you wanted to talk to me about what I said earlier about living in an area and not experiencing what we see on the media, and that you believe that the media is really focused on getting clicks or views, and so what they do is they take the whatever chunk it is that they think will draw people in, and they just play it over and over again.
Yes, I feel heard on that.
Okay. Yeah, let me respond back to you, Jay. I agree 100%. And I first saw it back in 1989 when I lived in Santa Cruz, and the Loma Prieta earthquake happened, and I was right in the middle of it. I have a friend who lived a mile from the epicenter, and we didn't have a electricity for a couple of days. But when we did, we started watching the TV, and what they were showing, especially with the Santa Cruz under it, were only the bad things, only the horrific things. And what we knew was the majority of the houses were intact. Maybe you had some cracks. The people were bonding together. We were getting coats for one another, and nothing like that showed on TV. All we saw were these images that made it look 10 times worse than it was. And that was very bad. I'm not saying it wasn't a horrendous thing, but I felt that it was horrendous enough that they could have given an accurate portrayal. So that's when I first tuned into that propensity in the media.
Okay, so you were in Santa Cruz during the 89 earthquake. That 89, correct? Yes. And you were in the middle of it. And the only media coverage you saw was negative coverage of the bad things that had happened, and they weren't showing the cooperation and the people getting along and helping each other that you and the people you knew experienced.
Yeah. And I want to add to that. I think you got that right. And what I wanted to add is that the problem with that is all of our friends and family who couldn't hear from us because we had no power and no phone had no clue that most of us were fine. It would have been so helpful if they had shown a map saying these are the places that were affected, or these are the number of people who are really okay. So the sensationalism caused a lot of distress to my family and many, many other people's families.
Okay, so the media's portrayal of only the bad stuff led to a lot of fear and concern amongst your family members because they didn't know that a lot of people were safe. They were only seeing the disaster footage, and therefore they were afraid that more people were hurt and that you in particular could be in danger.
Yes, thank you. I feel heard.
Okay, so we had initially set 2 hours, and I think the next time we're going to go for 2 hours, but then we had switched to 90 minutes. So we do want to bring this to a close, and I want to share my gratitude for everyone for taking part, and just do one round of just hearing kind of just a quick summary of how the experience was for you, and I will actually give a bit of a reflection of your experience. And so maybe I could start with Jessica, so since you haven't had a chance to say a lot, how was the experience here for you?
I have not much stuff to say. It was interesting, and I would say safe for me because I was not put, on a vulnerable spot, because I know doing empathy circles a lot. It is a vulnerable place. It can be very challenging, and so I really appreciate everybody who's, trying, because that's all it will take to really be able to hear each other. It's just by trying, because in a weird way we haven't really learned to listen to each other. So
okay,
it's a muscle to work on.
So you felt safe here because because you weren't involved in the dialogue in one hand, because it can be challenging, and that we need to sort of address this, and this is, we have to learn these skills, I think was the essence of what you said. Is that?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cliff?
Yes, it's been a very learning experience for me. I appreciate everybody's input. And I feel like I learned a lot, especially from David's point of view on about the masks. I don't go to rallies or anything like that, so I wasn't aware of all that. And I probably watch a different news channel. I'm bet on that. I really feel like this has been beneficial to me. I've got a bit of a headache from trying to focusing on the listening part of it. I need to work on that.
Okay, so I'm hearing that it was a beneficial and growing experience, and kind of the structure you had to kind of, it gives you a little bit of a headache to kind of use the structure, but it was a growing experience. And okay, David?
Yeah, I always like to take a part of in social experiments. Socialization in general is sort of an experiment to me. You know, I'm not a big fan of people. You know, I'm trying to grow a bit, expand my horizons. There's some things I believe in. I would like to say I apologize to Lisa if I was a little thorny. I'm usually not up doing a lot of stuff at this hour, you know, so I'm a little jacked up on coffee. So I probably connected the reflection and my next question on one thing, and that wasn't on purpose or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me being hyper, you know.
Okay.
So I feel like this has been helpful. I thought it was going to be 2 hours. You know, with 3 people, I really can get sucked up for a bit. So maybe next time it'll be 2 hours with whatever. I think this has been productive. I just want to say I have firsthand experience with like this political violence. I've got like camera footage and stuff, so I've seen it firsthand. So I know the media does distort things, but the situation on the ground is bad. And I can, you know, especially if you hold the ideas that are, you know, become socially acceptable to be violent against, you know. So I think that's a big issue, and it must be resolved before you have any, before you can go anywhere else, actually. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So you're just wanting to reiterate about the importance of addressing the violence that needs to be addressed, and that you did find this helpful or useful, and that you're just acknowledging kind of you're not a real social person, and that you're also right now jacked up on coffee, so a bit wired, and that that when you're apologizing for not giving a really clear reflection with Lisa, that you were sort of bringing in, you're kind of explaining it, you were bringing in your next question into what it was that she was saying.
Yes, I like to say that. And yeah, because the dialogues I usually get into can be very, I'm used to very nasty things being said to me. That's all. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm a little thorny, that's why.
Yeah, so you can be thorny because you've been in dialogues where they're pretty nasty and directed, you know, towards you in that way. Yeah. So that's kind of been your experience. Yeah. Okay. Jay?
First of all, I'm grateful to be a part of this, and I'm grateful for all of you for participating. And I really feel like I've learned a new skill set through empathetic listening and reflection. And I think I plan to use that going forward in all my conversations with people. And I hope to teach other people this skill set so that they can learn to listen properly and reflect ideas back completely.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is a gratitude for everyone taking part and for this empathy circle taking place, and that you really learned a new empathic listening skill, and you want to take it with you with other people too.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, I feel heard.
Okay, Lisa?
I want to second that or third it. I feel a lot of gratitude to all of you for participating. I know it's not easy. And for you, Edwin, for putting this together and working so hard at getting empathy circles going as often as we can, wherever we can. I especially want to express gratitude to David for being so honest and sharing your thoughts and experiences from the heart. We need to hear those things. The only way that folks on the left are going to hear what folks have to say is if folks on the right. Anyway, we can only hear each other if we take time to speak and if we speak honestly. And, you know, don't worry about being thorny. I just wanted to comment on that experience of empathic listening so I could learn more. And lastly, I wanted to say that you've really got me thinking, and I'm going to think about, is there something else that I can do to address the violence in Portland? I got some ideas thanks to you, so thank you.
So I'm hearing gratitude from me for hosting this, gratitude for all the participants, and especially for gratitude for David for speaking his truth, because you learned something from it, and you're going to be taking those ideas forward to work on some of those topics that he brought up.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and great. And so we're going to be holding more of these dialogues. So I hope you can take part in more, or we can organize others with other participants. And I feel that sort of modeling this, that people can watch, and that we can spread this process as one tool for people to dialogue with each other. So with that, thank you very much, and I hope we can connect soon. We'll be setting up a series and hope to see you at the next one.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Guys, have a nice day.
Bye.